Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and if your long's on, looks like a zon, it's probably because you're not keeping it safe and clean down there below. From what I understand, you get rid of the bush, it's going to add an extra inch, and hey, football's a game of inches. Use code Raiders at manscaped.com, and if you can't find it, I'm talking about the link, it's located down in the comments and in the description of today's show. So coming up here on the Raiders Report, we got some Josh Jacobs trade rumors. The silver and black and the star running back did not agree to a contract extension by the deadline of July 17th, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And now there's trade rumors circulating. So one of the things that I like to do here on the show is go into the latest trade rumors around Jacobs. Then we got to talk about the top teams that could potentially make a move. And then you know what? We're going to get a little bit wild here. We're going to let our hair down. We're going to look at some Jacobs trade ideas. So why could Josh potentially be traded? Well, they did come to a contract extension. It's been said, reported, that Jacobs doesn't want to play on the franchise tag. And I talked to a source yesterday that told me a trade, yes, isn't impossible. When you know how upset the running back market is, and I'm talking all the running backs, Jacobs has tweeted out bad business. He has said that it's not just about him, it's for the ones after him. He has said things like, if you're not going to pay me like a hero, something about a villain. Jacobs has been more than, I guess I should say, he's not been afraid to tell you exactly what he feels in regards to not getting the money that he deserves. And on Instagram on Tuesday, he said you should always bet on yourself. I hear doesn't want to play on the franchise tag, potentially could bet on himself. If there's a team out there that's willing to throw him the bag and make a trade for him, I don't think it'd be out of the realm of possibilities there for Jacobs. So the fact that Jacobs is frustrated with the Raiders and the overall running back market in the NFL, I said last week on a show that I was told by a source that, yes, things could get ugly. And anytime you hear that things could get ugly with your running back who was not happy that he played on a fifth-year option, or that he had his fifth-year option declined, and then he had over 2,000 yards, and you're still not willing to pay him, considering the fact that the Raiders last offseason paid Derek Carr an extension, Darren Waller an extension, Hunter Renfrow an extension, and none of those really worked out, I would say. And Jacobs is like, man, what the hell do I have to do in order to get my money? The Raiders want every player to be bought in. And if Jacobs is flat out telling you, I'm not going to be at training camp, don't expect him to be in the preseason as well. And if you got a team captain who was a team captain last season, and he's not 100% bought into what you're selling in Las Vegas, that's going to make your coaching staff upset. Then the number one guy that's been in Jacobs' corner, which has been reported as Mark Davis, what if Mark gets upset? Now we're really, really starting to get into an interesting situation. That is how a Jacobs trade could end up going down. So here's your opportunity to voice your opinion on the Raiders Report. Will Josh Jacobs get traded? Type yes or no. And you know what? I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's show. So you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break while the ad is playing. It helps Jugs and I out if you let it play. So scroll on down. Give us your vote. Yes or no. Will Jacobs get traded? I'm going to say that there is a 10% chance that Jacobs is traded in the next 2 months. And when I say the next 2 months, I technically mean by the end of July, so we got 2 weeks there, and then in the month of August. I will 100% look at every single one of y'all in the eyes right now and say, if the Raiders are bad in the season, and then the NFL trade deadline rolls around November 1st, if they're top 5 pick potential, I think every single person on the Raiders has a potential to get traded, minus number 98. Max Crosby, the only player that will never get traded because he is the face of this franchise. Devontae, it's still a possibility. The problem with Jacobs and the problem with the running back market right now is teams aren't looking to trade for a running back. Not only are they not looking to trade for a running back, they also don't want to pay him big money, because if I'm Jacobs' team and I'm Josh, right, and if I'm an NFL team, and if I go out and I trade for Jacobs, I got to sit down and know that I can't just make a trade. I am trading for him to go out and pay him right now. With the amount of running backs that are on the free agent market, don't get me wrong, Zeke, Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, none of those guys are close to what Jacobs can offer a team. But when you're an NFL team looking at the current running back market, you got to be able to sit back and think, would I rather give $3 million to Ezekiel Elliott, or do I want to give potentially at least $13-14 million to Josh Jacobs, and I have to give up draft capital? The way that the running back market is, Teams and organizations are going to go with the cheaper ladder in free agency, which only hurts Jacobs' contract, and it only hurts Jacobs' trade value. So to me, Jacobs, who was a team captain last year, if he is a distraction off the field, that's where I think things could get ugly. Like, it could get ugly for Josh because his trade value is going to go down, and then it could also get ugly for the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, Jacobs can sit up here and he could tell you all he wants in terms of him not liking the situation he's in. He wants to get paid more money. But then you also got to think of the type of coaches and regime that McDaniels and Ziegler are. They are personnel and coaches over players. So when you have a regime that believes in, hey, this is a team sport. It takes every single guy in that locker room, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It takes every single guy in that locker room to believe not only in each other, but to believe in what we are doing, and that is the Patriot way to make sure that you go get that Super Bowl, to make sure that you are a successful team. So if one of your team captains isn't buying in and is proving to be a distraction off the field, that's not going to sit well with McDaniels. That's definitely not going to sit well with Ziegler. It's not going to sit well with Mark Davis because he's paying those two guys to run this ship the way that he wants. And the one player that Davis has continually backed is Jacobs. Well, if he loses Mark Davis and he pisses off McDaniels and he pisses off Dave Ziegler, guess what? This could turn into a really interesting situation and not in a good way. So coming up here on the Raiders Report, I got my top 5 Josh Jacobs trade destinations. And I don't want the Raiders to trade away Josh. I want him to be a member of this team. Anybody who says the Raiders are going to be better without Josh, they're drinking way too much Fireball, way too much Boots. The Raiders are a better team with Josh Jacobs. Let's not get that twisted. And I want the Raiders to win football games this upcoming season. However, if I'm going to talk about trade rumors, my job as an analyst, my job here at Chat Sports, my job, the host of the Raiders Report, is to also be able to sit up here and say, well, here are the teams that could potentially trade them, and this is what a trade looks like. Let's go to number 5 here on the list. It's the Baltimore Ravens. The reason why the Ravens are on this list is if you had to guess what team's going to run the football the most in the NFL this upcoming season, I'm going to guess the Ravens. Why? Because they run the football more than anybody. On top of that, J.K. Dobbins right now is their main back, and he wants a brand new contract, and he didn't even play. He's been really, really injured. So if you're the Ravens, you're like, well, we just gave Lamar Jackson a lot of money. Right now is going to be our Super Bowl window, if you will. And looking at the rest of the AFC, what's a good way to keep Josh Allen off the field? What's a good way to keep Joe Burrow off the field? What's a good way to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field? It's with a great running game. So if you're dealing with the J.K. Dobbins BS, could you potentially make a deal for Josh Jacobs and now he be your main running back? I don't know. Something to think about. Let's go to number 4 here on my Jacobs trade destinations. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins, and it's another team predicated on running the football. Miami, if you were to ask me which team right now is the most likely to make a move for a running back, I'd say it's the Dolphins. And do I think it would be trading for Jacobs? No, I necessarily do not think that. But Dalvin Cook, I do think ends up going to the Dolphins. However, what's the one thing that the Raiders always talk about, or at least I always talk about? It's relationships. Whether you like to hear this or not, Tom Brady is a partial owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Tom Brady is great friends with the Miami Dolphins owner. They were on the yacht together. That's why the Dolphins forfeited their first-round pick this past season. As far as I'm concerned, all it would take is Tom Brady calling up, what's his name, the owner of the Dolphins, Ross, and then a deal could end up potentially getting done. I got 3 more Jacobs trade destinations coming up here on the Raiders board, but hey, today's show is presented by Manscaped. And for all the guys out there, think about how difficult dating life is, right? Then you finally get to that point where she's like, all right, yeah, I'll come back to your house. Or you think about the point of you get to the spot in your relationship. I want you guys to be confident when it gets to that point, and you all know what point I'm talking about. When they go down there, it's like everything's looking good. And Manscaped is going to help you end up doing that. Use code Raiders at manscaped.com. Also, it's the summertime, and I hear Chugs yelling in my ear, Cannonball.
Cannonballs!
Well, I want to make sure your cannonballs are looking 100% authentic and great. I don't want any George W. going on down there. I want your Ken Stabler to be flowing in the wind as it absolutely should be. And Manscaped is going to help you do that. And the Lawnmower 4.0 is the perfect product to try to get your hands on, and even the perfect package out there. Whether you need the ball toner, the ball deodorant, their boxes are super, super comfortable, and you can actually get the perfect package at $87.99 with promo code Raiders. The link's going to be available for you guys down in the comments and down in the description below, because we would appreciate it. What do you got for me?
Hey, Mitch, I've heard it's not about the size of the cannonballs. It's
Really?
about making a splash.
Oh.
And with Manscaped, prep for barbecue season by making sure your grill master has the hottest dog the summer has ever seen.
So if you want your hottest dog, then hey, you got to get some Manscaped flowing right now. It's manscaped.com, code Raiders, 20% off, and you're going to be able to get some free shipping. So seriously, turn your longs on into a longs on. Let's go to number 3 here. It's the Buffalo Bills on my list for potential Jacobs trade destinations. The only teams to me that are truly in the mix to making a deal are teams that believe that their Super Bowl window is right now. And to me, the Bills, top running backs, James Cook, I like their pass-catching back, Naheem Hines. They also have Damian Harris. I mean, let's be real. Same thing I said about Baltimore. Same thing can be said about Miami. You want to keep some of those dynamic offenses off the field. If you had Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Josh Jacobs, good Lord, that'd be a tough offense to stop. Let's go to number 2 here. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles already made a trade for DeAndre Swift, right? And this is a team to me that they don't really need to go out and add a running back. But the most ballsy team, I'd say the last 2 years, and hell, it might even be longer than that. As long as your general manager is Howie Roseman, not a doubt in my mind, uses Manscaped, because that guy in a split second isn't afraid to put it on the table and say, hey, I'm going to try to go out and win a Super Bowl. And for a team that was the runner-up, could they potentially do an insane deal that gets some people's attention after losing Miles Sanders? And DeAndre Swift has not been the healthiest running back. I'm just saying, watch out for Philadelphia as a potential trade destination. And then the number 1 destination, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. They still have the most money in terms of salary cap space. Sounds like that's what Jacobs wanted to get. And Chicago also has that good relationship with the Raiders. Champ Kelly, the right-hand man, if you will, to Dave Ziegler, the assistant general manager, was previously with Chicago, and it's why you've seen some of the Raiders trades, or maybe not trades, but moves between both of these teams, because there is a connection there. The top running back, Khalil Herbert in Chicago, they have a great running game with Justin Fields as their quarterback. Can you add right now Jacobs to that division, which seems more wide open than has ever been historically, since Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre aren't there anymore? So the number 1 team most likely to trade for Jacobs right now in the month of July and August, I'm going to say, is the Chicago Bears. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, Josh Jacobs trade ideas. I see some people right now down in the comments saying, oh, what about the Saints? The Saints trading for Jacobs makes 0 sense unless Alvin Kamara gets a serious suspension. Unless Wild wants the GM, correct. Coming up next here, we got some Josh Jacobs trade ideas, and I did this a little bit differently to lay out the different trades that could potentially happen. So the first trade coming up here is a team trades for Jacobs. And some of you are like, well, no shit, Mitch. Hear me out here a little bit. Every trade is different, okay? But if one team says, that's a guy that I want, if a team handpicks Jacobs, then they're going to be willing to give up more draft capital, more to go out and get him. The problem for the Raiders is, even if that be the case, I've seen on Twitter that, the Raiders could get 2 first-round picks for Jacobs. No, you couldn't. You know why? You know I know that? Because the non-exclusive tag was on Jacobs, and nobody was willing to go 2 first-round picks. Oh, you could probably get a first-round pick for Jacobs. Before the NFL draft, yeah, you probably could have. Now the NFL draft has come and gone. That free agency has come and gone. And we're sitting here in the month of July. There is not going to be a single NFL team out there that looks at the Raiders, knowing the situation that they're in right now. It says, yeah, I'll give you a first-round pick. There is a 0% chance, a zero just win baby chance, that the Raiders would get a first-round pick for Jacobs. A second-round pick, now that could be a potentially different story. I do think that there are a handful of teams out there that would be willing to give up a second-round pick, but it's also because they have the money. So if I'm going to sit up here and say that the number 1 team most likely to trade for Jacobs in the month of July or the month of August is the Chicago Bears, this is what it would turn out to be. Raiders receive a second-round pick. Chicago gets Josh Jacobs. My question to you is, Would you trade Jacobs for a second-round pick? I want you to type T for trade, or you can go down in the comments, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on a later date, and you can type your P for pass. Would you trade Josh Jacobs for a second-round pick? No. No, no. No, no, no. Michael Scott, no, 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 no. Jacobs is worth more than a second-rounder. It's not really close to me, right? But I get the fact that the running back market right now, it sucks. It's crap. I 100% get that. And getting a second-round pick for a running back, some people might view that as a win. To me, though, the Raiders are so much better with Jacobs on the roster compared to not on the roster that just getting that second-round pick, yeah, the second-rounder is great and all, but I think it sends a really, really bad message to trade away a player really under market value, who you named a team captain last season, who should have been Offensive Player of the Year with over 2,000 yards. What does that tell other players that have those type of seasons entering this team with McDaniels and Ziegler? It says that you don't have my back, and big-time players, they don't want to hear that. So if you're looking for more Raiders analysis, like I am providing on today's show, not just talking about the latest news, rumors, but providing those top destinations, providing what it would cost to trade away Jacobs or have a team trade for him, then subscribe today. We are called The Raiders Report. We are the #1 most watched Raiders show, YouTube, in the entire world. We have over 138,000 subscribers, and I'd like to show you why that we have built an amazing family here. So hit that subscribe button. If you don't like watching the show after a week, hit the unsubscribe button. You got absolutely nothing to lose. Let's go to the next Josh Jacobs trade idea. If Jacobs demands a trade, I don't know if anybody out there has stocks, but this would be the Jacobs trade stock. And it would just go directly down. Because as soon as a player says, get me the hell out of here, the stock goes down, man. And I do think as soon as the stock goes down, then other teams are going to be like, well, wait a minute here. We might be able to go out and get him. And I think an aggressive team would swoop in. The most aggressive team right now to make a trade for our running back, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Some of the trades that you're about to see here, you're not going to like. I hope that somebody takes a screenshot. I hope you put it on Twitter. I hope you put it on Instagram, because there's going to be people out there that are like, I can't believe Mitch likes this trade. I don't. I hate this trade for the Raiders. I'm simply trying to outline what it would potentially cost if Jacob says, get me the hell out of here. To me, this is probably an idea of something that you could look at. The Eagles, they get Jacobs, and they would probably get a 5th-round pick. Let's say the Eagles still decide to throw in a second-rounder. I don't even know if that would be the case. I hate this trade for the Raiders. You better hope Jacobs doesn't demand a trade. Let's go to the next thing. Las Vegas gets sick of the Jacobs drama. This is an organization that's trying to look forward. This is an organization that has been surrounded by drama for multiple years, and now you got McDaniels and Ziegler. They were surrounded by the Carr drama. They don't want that. They want to have everybody on the same page on and off the field, and everybody motivated and inspired to be able to put on those shoulder pads, put on those cleats, rock that silver and black jersey, and rock the Raiders album. If you don't have a team leader buying in, the Raiders could say, hey, man, we want you out of here. And if that ends up going down, I think the Raiders would take a very cheap deal to not have to worry about the headache anymore. Now, let me be very clear. To get to this point would have to be like worst case, like serious break glass in case of emergency type of things. But a 3rd and a 5th round pick for a player of Jacobs' caliber, some of you are probably like, Mitch, there's no way that's going to happen. How about we hop in a time machine? Remember Antonio Brown, where at one point was the best receiver in the NFL? The Steelers couldn't wait to get rid of him. 3rd and the 5th round pick. I'll also say Antonio Brown, Josh Jacobs, not even close to the same nutcases that AB is, right? But it shows when a team starts to get fed up, they're more willing to just wipe their hands clean and potentially move on. And some coaching staffs, like the Raiders, believe some players aren't worth those headaches. This is a team, this is a regime that believes in coaching, personnel over star talent. Then the final thing is this. Las Vegas wants a player trade, and this was probably the hardest one to come up with because I can come up with 20 different trade ideas in this regard here. So I did a few different areas. So the first trade that you're about to see here is, what if the Raiders try to go out and get a running back in exchange for Jacobs? Because Do I think Zamir White's going to be the main back? Yes, I do, if Jacobs would end up getting dealt. I would hope they would still move on from a Brandon Bolden. They have Sincere McCormick. They have a Britton Brown. But the reason why I have Damian Harris here, and the Raiders also get a third-round pick, the Bills, who could potentially go out and get Jacobs anyway because he'd be the best running back on their roster. I have Damian Harris on here because back in 2021, when McDaniels was the offensive coordinator, when McDaniels was the OC and Dave Ziegler was the general manager, and Mac Jones' rookie year, their team went on to win 10 games, go to the playoffs. Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler, and Damian Harris had 15 touchdowns on 200 carries, essentially showing that, yes, in the right system, any running back can be successful. The other trade idea that you could do is go to the defensive side of the football, and this is just kind of one that's been thrown out there a bunch here on this show. Ravens receive Jacobs. The Raiders get Patrick Queen at linebacker. Patrick Queen has worked with Rob Ryan, who is the Raiders' some specialty defensive coach at this point. He was an inside linebacker coach with Baltimore. I know Queen's not an inside linebacker. He's more of an outside LB, but it's still some defensive help. Maybe that's something that the Raiders could potentially look at. Though, Patrick Queen also wants a brand new deal, so they'd have to pay him as well. So I want to know, comment your Josh Jacobs trade ideas. I love doing these type of shows. When I started getting into this business, coming up with crazy trade ideas, being able to do something different was always something that I love to do. So how about this? If you take a time out of your day to watch what I'm doing here on this show, I'm going to put some of my favorite trade ideas that you guys submit down in the comments of this video, and I'm going to put them on a future Raiders Report show.